A growing number of federal judges across the country are stepping in to block deportations, issuing temporary orders that have put a spotlight on immigration enforcement under the Trump administration. Federal Judge James Boasberg is currently investigating whether the Trump administration defied his directive to halt deportation flights carrying Venezuelan immigrants to El Salvador. And just yesterday, we saw a Colorado judge block the Trump administration from deporting an activist who is in the United States illegally.
For more, let's welcome in practicing attorney Dwane Cates and constitutional law attorney and former prosecutor Amir Beno. Dwane, good morning. Amir, how are you too?
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Dwane, this question's for you. What do you make of all these judges that are attempting to block deportation? Seems to me that we've got some judges who are way out of line here.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I saw a clip of Chuck Schumer admitting that they put all these judges on the bench in specifically to block Trump's agenda. And, you know, and that's not what judges are for. Judges are to adjudicate the law. And these nationwide injunctions, I believe, are horrible for our country. You know, we're not run by judges. We're run by the government. We're run by the president and the Congress, not judges. And they should stay out of the executive branch issues.
Right, exactly. And they keep talking about due process. At least the left says that. But what about the due process of the individuals who are coming here illegally? I mean, it's absurd. But Amir, what grounds do these judges have when it comes to stopping a deportation order after all these people are in the country illegally?
Everything depends on its own facts. But the important thing to remember, Krista, is that the judge can consider that one plaintiff that comes before that judge. Okay, so when they're deciding on a TRO or a preliminary injunction, if they're able to rule on that issue, and it's not even clear they are, because the Supreme Court has been very clear in Trump versus Hawaii. That was the travel ban case. It was Chief Justice Roberts who wrote that the Supreme Court.
Hey, Amir, excuse me, I got to jump in. We're having trouble with your audio there. I'm going to move on, and we'll come back after we get that fixed. Sorry about that, sir. So earlier this week, we know that Trump did say that Judge James Boasberg is a troublemaker and agitator. Who should be impeached after directing flights carrying Venezuelan migrants to be turned around? What do you make of President Trump's comments, Dwane?
Well, you know, impeachment's probably a bridge too far. I mean, you can't impeach a judge just because you don't like the judge's rulings. Now, you would have to be able to prove that the judge specifically was doing it, you know, that he just wasn't an idiot, that he didn't understand the law, or that he didn't get it right, that he was, you know, purposefully trying to order the president of the United States around, which, you know, it can look like that, but proving it is something different. So that's probably a bit too far. I think the Supreme Court has to step in here and rule about and make a decision about nationwide injunctions and issues like this. You know, a temporary restraining order or an injunction that the judge issued, you know, is done without the other side being there. So that's an ex parte decision, and you know, and again, it shouldn't be happening, but it does.
I get the point that you're making for sure. But, you know, they taught me in law school that we have three branches of government, three co-equal branches of government. It just seems to me that this activist judiciary, and it always seems to be the activist judges coming from the left, right? Even conservative judges, even when we don't agree with them, they seem to be trying to follow the law. But we see here where we've got a judge telling the president of the United States that he can't keep this country safe. He can't, in his official authority as the commander-in-chief, get rid of criminals and gang members. That just seems to be a bridge too far for me. But we know at yesterday's hearing, Judge Boasberg vowed to determine whether the Trump administration even violated his initial order to stop deportations. How do you think this is going to play out? I mean, do you think ultimately the president's going to get a win here? Is this going to the Supreme Court? What's ultimately going to happen here in your prognostication?
Well, I don't think he has much of a chance of winning in the court he's in right now. The Court of Appeals is going to look at this Monday. And again, it's a pretty liberal panel that's going to be deciding that. I think the Supreme Court's going to have to look at it. And to your point, you know, the conservative justices don't vote lockstep. I mean, you know, Roberts went against Trump the other day. So it's not like the Supreme Court's automatically doing, you know, Trump's bidding. the good thing about the Supreme Court is, they're trying to get it right. They're strict constitutionalists. They're trying to follow the Constitution, and they vote their heart. Whether they vote for Trump or against Trump doesn't matter. They try to do what they believe is correct under the Constitution.
Well, changing topics here a bit, and we're going to try to get Amir back in because I know he has some important points on this one. Thursday, Trump signed an executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, but still, we need to have officials act in Congress to complete the total shutdown. So, Amir, what does that look like?
All right, I hope you can hear me. I don't know. Look, Trump, it's an executive branch agency. It was created in 1979. It was done out of an agreement with the unions. Donald Trump has every right as the executive, the sole executive. He is a branch of the government to dismantle it, but he has to do it with the authority with not the authority, but with the cooperation of Congress, and that mostly means figuring out how to deal with these grants. That was really what the Department of Education does, issuing grants to the states and localities. And so they have to pass legislation determining whether to now convert these grants into maybe block grants to the state or something else. But Congress has the power of the purse. They're the ones who give the money. So he does have to work cooperatively with Congress in order to figure out how to transition to a different system when we get rid of the federal bureaucracy and turn that power back to the states and localities.
And the Department of Education, of course, has been so inefficient, zero results. Dwane Cates, Amir Benno, thank you for joining us this Saturday morning.
Thank you.